Good morning, and a good morning. And it's a lovely morning, except the sun is really low in the sky. So there's very little cloud cover. So, and in particular roads, you're going to get blinded. And it's that sort of weather where the windscreen's always covered in rubbish as well. So. Oh, I'll have to top that up when I get to work. So, I hope you're well. I hope things are going well for you. I'm just about keeping up with the uploading schedule. The mic's working out well. I had a situation the other day where I lost some CCTV footage, but I still had the camera, the phone footage of me and the audio, so that was really good. So what's happened lately? Well, I had another half a day yesterday, so I got a full day worked out today. For some reason we're not really doing many root treatments at the moment. I don't know whether it's for financial reasons, people just haven't got the dosh, but everyone who's got a toothache at the moment seems to want to just have the tooth out. I can't blame them. I mean, you know, and a lot of the teeth now, as I say, they're, hello, someone's in a hurry. So a quick update on my speeding fine, which I couldn't, where I got caught because it was foggy and I couldn't see the speed sign. I was driving what I felt to be a safe speed, as you know, in line with all the other, and there was other vehicles about, so it's not like it was a sort of day where you'd have to be a madman to drive. And I had no choice. I mean, I was parked at Gatwick Airport. I needed to get home. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. It's not. I wouldn't have driven in the fog at 4 o'clock in the morning. That is correct. But really, I had no choice. You know, that's it. I had to make that journey, and couldn't wait in Gatwick all day for the fog to clear. So, if you haven't heard the story, I just basically got flashed by an automatic camera at 4:45 in the morning on basically a really dark night, which was like a pea super fog. And obviously I'd missed the speed limit. Had gone down from 50 to 30 and I completely missed that. So the general consensus really with the advice I've been given is that I should just get on with it and go on the speed awareness course or take the points, you know. I feel aggrieved. I do feel aggrieved, and I don't feel aggrieved for the reason I would imagine most people feel aggrieved, which is that it's just, you know, that it's my damn hard luck, my bad luck, or that I was driving what was a reasonable speed for the road, even though it was faster than the speed limit. And normally I don't drive faster than the speed limit, and I have not had a single motoring conviction. Excuse me. Since I got my license, you know, at the age of 18 or 19. So that's, you know, over 47 years with no problems at all. And then I get flashed on this stupid reason, which is that I never saw a speed limit sign, never saw a speed camera sign, never saw the speed camera. The fog was that thick. But the advice is that, you know, if I go to court and argue that I've shouldn't be found guilty of speeding, which I was speeding, but I shouldn't be found guilty because it was in thick fog, is that it's going to be laughed at court. So, you know, so I don't have a leg to stand on. And it reminds me so much of the opening chapter of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where Earth is informed by the Vogons that it's going to be blown up to make space for an interstellar highway. And when the Earthlings protest that no one had notified them of this and that they hadn't heard anything about it, the Vogons tell them that the notice had been on display in their local library at the centre of the galaxy for several years, and it's not their fault if Earthlings can't be bothered to develop a space flight and go and check these things. They should have just not knowing is not really a defence. Not checking is not really a defence. So I really feel that all these people have replied and said, no, you don't have a leg to stand on, would benefit from reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because basically the advice they're giving me is that the sign was there if only I'd bothered to find it. So, the fact that it was obscured and I don't have fog piercing technology eyeballs, that I can only really concentrate on what's in front of the car without looking at all the street furniture and everything. But you're not going to win with an argument like that. I'm not going to go along with a copy of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and argue that the Kent police are acting like prosthetic Deletnik, whatever his name was. And in the end, the Earth did get destroyed, and the excuse was no good anyway. So perhaps they're doing me a kindness by telling me that this argument is just not going to fly. Anyway, had a young I say girl, she's in her 20s yesterday, very nervous, a perfect set of teeth but a really extensively decayed lower left 7, well beyond saving, and so we had to take the tooth out. So we'd given her a course of antibiotics when she came in, and she was okay, right? On the face of it she was okay. Her boyfriend or husband's a patient of ours, he's had a tooth out and he told her that it came out okay. So, but it was a good example of how to extract a tooth from someone who's really sort of nervous and really certainly hasn't had a tooth out before, and probably not much dentistry at all, So the question obviously is getting it 100% numb. So, excuse me, what we did was we gave her 2 left ID blocks for this lower left 7, gave her a long buckle, in other words just infiltrated next to the tooth, and then finished up by doing intraligamental injections with a very short needle down the side of the tooth in the four places: mesial and distal buccal, mesial and distal lingual. And that then made the tooth numb enough really to be extracted. Or to put it another way, it got it numb enough for her to relax enough for me to extract the tooth. See what I mean about the sun? So, because obviously the patient cooperation is 50% of the job. Extracting the tooth technically is the other 50% of the job. We've got these cow horn type extractors that lock into the in between the roots. Unfortunately, the roots were high enough. The bifurcation was high enough for us to be able to get the cow horns into the bifurcation. And then once you've done that, it's really just a case of whether or not there's enough cooperation. Yeah, none of those should have come from there. Enough cooperation and enough anaesthesia to finish it off. So what you've got to do though is you've got to be sure that the cow horns are in the bifurcation. You don't want to do what I have occasionally done, which is not get the cow horns quite at the bifurcation, in which case when you squeeze on them, it just literally cracks the crown of the tooth in half or off, and leaves you with a big, big problem. And because she's in her 20s, again, you've got to think about bone quality. So she's likely to still to have reasonably pliable bone, and it's going to be not too difficult to take the tooth out. And then these cow horns, they tend to force the tooth out of the socket very slightly, and that ruptures the periodontal ligament, which then obviously makes the rest of the extraction quite easy. So they do the initial really, really heavy lifting for you, and then you then finish off. If I was doing it on an 80-year-old, it would be a bit different. So anyway, the tooth came out okay, and she was fine. So again, just hints from someone who's done a lot of these things, right? Sometimes if you are like you've got something's 75% extracted or 90% extracted, then I think you are justified in just hanging on to the forceps and finishing it off, even if the patient is at that point says it's painful or whatever, because really it's already extracted at that point. You're not going to put it back in the socket, so it's you may as well just when you're pretty much done the whole job, you can't then stop and say, oh well, we'll do it, we'll give you some antibiotics and try it again in a couple of weeks. But that's very rare. And then what I was just you should do is you should just obviously make sure the patient is as numb as they can be beforehand. The intraligamental is instrumental in doing that. Also, when you're probing the gingival sulcus to see if there's any anaesthesia, if you're given a long buccal, that will always be 100% numb. There's no problem about that. But when you're probing lingually, it's then it's more important to, because what you're tempted to think, I won't probe that so hard because that's the one, if they feel it, that's where they're going to feel it. But really, you should make sure that is as numb as the buccal, because it's not fair to take a tooth out of the patient that's not completely numb. So make sure that it's numb lingually, and ask them questions. Ask them about their lip. Now I know some people drive you mad. They're like, they can't describe anything. That's the one thing that you can't really know, is how numb they are. You can prod a few bits and test it, but there's nothing better than saying to the patient, like, is your left-hand side of your tongue numb? Is your left-hand side of your lower lip numb? And they'll say all sorts of stupid stuff like, yeah, I think so, or yeah, it does feel a bit numb, or it's numb but it's tingly, or all sorts of stuff. So take your time with the anaesthesia, because really that's, once you've got the anaesthesia in place, then the rest of it is actually probably going to run fairly smoothly. There's nothing worse than sort of doing the anaesthesia and thinking that's probably all right, and then attempting the extraction, and then the patient having to stop you and you having to give them more anaesthetic. That really does it sort of how can I put it, it devastates their confidence in your ability and the whole procedure and how extractions work and stuff like that. So right, so but the tooth came out all right. The only other thing I would say is that when a patient like that has a tooth out, who hasn't had a tooth out before and who hasn't really had much dentistry before, and first of all, ask them if they've had any breakfast, if they've had anything to eat recently, because if they there's my microphone, if they haven't, then you need to give them a thing of orange juice or some Lucozade glucose tablet or two. And the other thing is afterwards, just give them a chance just to let all the emotion out, because they'll be so tense in terms of, are they going to do their part correctly, are they going to suffer from having lost a tooth, etc. There's a lot of emotion in there. And so when you take the tooth out, just clear the tray away and everything, and then just have a sit, and then just let them, you know, have a little, if they've got a little tear in their eye or something, and then just let them just breathe and just get down off the emotional high that they're probably on, you know. This is, I mean, this is not for your normal, like, loose, low incisors. I'm talking about perhaps younger people who, as I say, have never had a tooth out, and they need some time. I needed some time. When I had a tooth out, I had a tooth split in half, so it had to go. After I'd had the tooth taken out, I went home and I went to bed for the day. You know, there's no substitute for just doing nothing when you've had a bit of complicated dentistry done. So anyway, that's my tips on how to cope with someone who's got a tooth that's very decayed, and where they've got no dental experience, and where you've perhaps had to give them antibiotics, and you might be having problems getting them numb. Okay, upper teeth not so difficult, easier to anaesthetize. Lower teeth certainly lower molars, and also the root form. Obviously look at the root form. I know I wasn't unhappy with the root form on this because the roots were convergent, it had a high bifurcation. I pretty much knew that with the cow horns we were going to have a success. Other teeth, your mileage may vary. You may have divergent roots and a low bifurcation and everything, and which case then, and you know, perhaps even an ID block, an ID nerve close by, in which case that's one for the oral surgeons. Okay, they get the big bucks, so let them do the difficult jobs. Okay, all right, nice to talk to you. Bye.